This is an official announcement from the Podcast Tonight Awards. Your favourite show that you're listening to right now has been officially nominated for a Podcast Tonight Award. But the power is in your hands. Amongst other categories, this show is in the running for the prestigious Listener's Choice Award, and they need your vote to win. You can show your support and help them get the recognition they deserve. The link to vote is in their show notes and bio. Go now and make your voice heard. This has been a message from Podcast Tonight, celebrating the best in audio.
Coming to you from the Freedom Federal Credit Union Studios, Harford County Living presents Conversations with Rich Bennett.
Slow pitch affairs today.
It's probably the least sexy part of the organization. No. The truth is,
I'll be honest. This is one of those conversations that pushes me a little outside my comfort zone. And that's exactly why I wanted to have it. I originally wanted to get one of my co-hosts, Wendy, to do this with me, and she wasn't comfortable with it. And then it's like, and I reached out to my guest and said, is it okay are you comfortable doing it with just me? And you'll understand why in a minute. A lot of guys, I would think, don't really, they don't get comfortable talking about this. But anyways, today's guest spent 26 years in a marriage where intimacy quietly disappeared. Not because of betrayal or drama, but because of disconnection. Xanet Pailet, I just had to do it, left a successful career as a healthcare attorney and rebuilt her life around helping couples who look fine on the outside, but feel like roommates behind closed doors. So this isn't a shock value conversation about sex. It's a thoughtful, honest discussion about emotional safety, communication, and why intimacy doesn't die. It goes underground. So if any of that feels familiar, grab your coffee, grab your tea, your bourbon, whatever you want to drink, sit down, stay with us because you're going to get a lot out of this. How you doing, Xanet?
Hi, Rich. Thanks for having me.
All right. Before we start, I got to tell everybody the story. You and I connected. Oh, my God.
Like September.
I think it was way before then.
Yeah,
I don't even
probably
remember.
Was. In the summer.
Yeah. And we've been more or less playing phone tag. It's like
for months.
I think one time I came on and you missed it. Another time, a couple times you came on and I can't remember. Yeah. Anyways, we're finally here.
We made it. Good way to start 2026 to be on Conversations with Rich Bennett. I'm digging that.
All right, I want to really get into this because what really struck me about your story is, nothing was wrong in the way most people define it. No big blow-ups, and if I'm wrong, correct me. No obvious crisis, and yet the intimacy slowly disappeared.
Yes.
And you went from a long career as a healthcare attorney, into this very different world of sex and intimacy work.
Yep.
And that doesn't happen without a moment of reckoning.
True. That's very true.
What was the turning point that made you realize you couldn't keep living the way you were? And that this was the work you were meant to do.
Yeah, it was both like an aha moment, and it was also like a very slow transition in some ways, right? Like I was living in a marriage with no intimacy and very little sex. I do have 2 children, so there was some. Right. But over time, that act faded, where we ended up like sleeping in separate bedrooms, kind of creating our own lives, if you will.
Like Lucy and Ricky. Well, no, they were separate beds.
They were separate beds, not separate bedrooms.
Wow.
We're talking about separate bedrooms. One of us in our son's room, another one in the master. We would take turns. So and that was just, sort of the natural flow of events in that particular relationship. And I did actually, we were very good, let me put it this way, we were a very good familial unit. We were great parents. Mm-hmm. We had fun with our children. We took them on great vacations. We were living in New York City, both making a lot of money and going to Broadway shows. I was a Broadway producer. We had, on the outside, we did have this ideal life, right? And that's what our friends and our colleagues saw. But, very often that's just a show. It's a sham, right? Inside, there was a lot of struggles around not only intimacy, but just our connection in general. We were not, I guess I would say there was not, we were really good parents. We were able to talk about, day-to-day stuff. But in terms of really feeling emotionally safe with each other, being able to, especially for me, being able to talk about my feelings and what was going on, that was just really kind of non-existent. And so I actually had a 7-year plan to leave this marriage, meaning when my youngest child got into college or his last year of high school, that was my plan.
Wow.
I had a 7-year plan. It sounds kind of crazy when I say it now. At the time, it seemed very sane.
Right.
I want to keep the family together. I don't want to create a lot of drama. And quite frankly, I had never, even though, I was very successful, I had my own consulting practice at the time, it was just really scary as a woman to think about leaving a marriage and the security that a two earning couple makes. And he was a lawyer in a big law firm. And, going out on my own. I had never lived alone in my entire life. I had always either been with a college roommate, and then I went to law school and I was with a housemate, and then I met him and we were living together. Right. And so it was just really, really terrifying for me. So I had my 7-year plan, and then, ultimately the kids did finally get into, both of them in college. And on what was our 25th anniversary, when we were sitting across each other at this beautiful restaurant in Chelsea. You're from Connecticut, right?
No, I'm Harford County with no T. I'm in Maryland.
Oh, you're in Maryland. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people.
thought you were in Connecticut. Right?
A lot of people think that. People think that.
Okay, great. Okay. So, I just sat there and looked at him, and there wasn't a lot to be said. Mm-hmm. And I was just said to myself, this is it. We're done. There is not going to be a 26th anniversary. Wow. And there wasn't. 6 months later, we separated. And so that was, there was both a slow and then okay, we're done. We're just done. And that's very common, right? As empty nesters, when your kids leave the nest, right? It's often a really big turning point for couples, right? If they've been disconnected, they turn to this person who they're living with under the same roof, and they're saying who the hell are you? Mm-hmm. Who are we as a couple, right? And I see a lot of couples really struggling around at that moment. And that's when a lot of divorces actually and separations happen. We're we did our thing. We raised our kids. That was a great chapter. Now we both deserve to have some other something else in our life that creates more happiness for us.
All right. So even though the sex and the intimacy were gone, was the love still there?
Well, I don't know. I think there was love, but there wasn't if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Right.
Wow.
We loved each other because, we were married and we raised these 2 children. But I don't think we liked each other but by the end, we really didn't like each other very much. So
what actually was the hardest belief you had to let go of when you left?
Oh, so many beliefs. Well, the hardest belief that I had to let go of is that I was a sexual being, because I didn't feel like a sexual woman at all. I was just so shut down from my body and shut down from my sexuality. And, and for me, that was so challenging because, I was 50 when I left, and I knew that I wanted to be in another relationship, but I didn't know how I was going to tell whoever I was dating online in New York City, hey, I'm an awesome woman. I'm really successful. I'm a lot of fun to be with, but just one problem. We can't have sex. Right? That wasn't going to go over, but that was the biggest belief that I had to get over. And that was a lot of my work. That was the first piece of it. And the second part of it, and that took a period of time, but not as long as the second part of it, which was I had to go through a very long journey to be able to allow myself to open my heart up to somebody else, because I was so hurt and so injured. I think we both were in being in a relationship like that.
Okay, I didn't realize. So, at 50 years old is when you walked away. Mm-hmm. So, what actually scared you the most? Because a lot of people think, 50 years old, it's like, oh my God, nobody's going to want to date me, yada yada yada, all this. What was the scariest part about that? At being 50 and walking away.
Yeah, I think that was the piece. Like, how am I going to tell somebody I don't want to have sex with you? Like, that just doesn't work for me. Right? When you're like dating online, in New York City, like that was very, very, that was very scary for me and hard. Right. And I wasn't actually sure how to address it. I think that was one piece. And the other part was, and I don't know that this was scary, but in some ways it was transformational, was like, I really looked at myself and I said, who am I now? Right? I've been a mother. I've been a wife. I've been running a business, which, was successful, but maybe didn't bring me a ton of joy and passion.
Right.
And like, there was no space. I'm a Broadway producer, right? Very involved in the theater world, but like, who am I now? Like, who is this person underneath all of this? What do I actually want? Because, when you're in that position of raising children and running a business and managing, your life, and I did manage our life, right? There's no time for you. There's no space for you. There's no opportunity other than me going to the gym and running to be able to like have any self-care and even any self-awareness around who I was and what I actually wanted in life, right? And that was huge for me. That took a lot of time and effort for me to kind of figure that piece out.
Okay, so, the kids are already in college.
Right.
But still, even kids that are in college, it can, when parents get divorced, it can be hard on them.
Totally.
How did you guys explain this to the kids?
Well, interestingly enough, my older son, who's very intuitive, had said to us he was actually home from one semester, I guess it was one summer, and he said to me, because we had a very close relationship, he looked at me and he said, "Mom," he was like, "you and Dad aren't very happy. Why are you still together?" Right?
Wow.
And actually, that was probably the catalyst for me finally getting the balls to be able to say, like, we have to have this conversation. Like, we can't let this go any longer. So he was well aware of it. And for him, it was like a blessing. He's like, I want you both to be happy, and you're so unhappy. Even though, there wasn't like yelling and screaming, but there was tension in the house when the kids were in high school, and they knew it, right?
They could sense it.
Kids sense that, right? Mm-hmm. I think it was harder for my younger son, who was so more idealistic, and for him, the first summer of his college, he didn't have a place to live. He had to go live with he did, but, the family apartment wasn't there. The condo wasn't there anymore where he grew up. And he ended up living with his girlfriend at the time. And he was very resentful. And it took him a while to, forgive us, I think. Yeah. So
with couple, especially long-term couples.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many struggle with intimacy? God, Brenda lives here. Intimacy, even when actually nothing seems wrong.
Yeah. So the patterns that I see is that for a lot of couples, there is underlying resentments that build up in relationships because they don't know how to repair conflict when it comes up. And, we end up not consciously, but unconsciously constantly hurting our partners time after time after time. We know where their weak points are. We know where their wounds are, whether we know that's their wounds or not. And we end up hurting each other. And that's normal, right? It is normal in a romantic relationship to hurt your partner over and over again. Mm-hmm. That is going to happen, right? And anybody who says that doesn't happen, I'm going to call BS on that.
Right.
it may just be that it happens and you push it under the rug and you, quote, ignore it, but it's not ignored, right? It ends up becoming like, maybe it's like a little scrape that you put a Band-Aid on, but then over time, it keeps on, you get hurt again and again and hurt each other. And that becomes like something that starts festering, right? And then before you know it, it's this huge wound that maybe is not is very hard to repair. And I do think that that's one of the big issues in relationships is there's not a lot of communication skills. People are not taught how to communicate with their partner. They're not taught, they don't understand what emotional safety actually is. They maybe have never experienced it as a child. And so they end up marrying a partner who also doesn't give them emotional safety because that's what we do. That's who we're attracted to, right?
Right.
But these are all tools and skills that people can learn. And I think that's like the message I always try to bring home to all of my couples and to all of your listeners. Like there's nothing here that's not learnable, right? These are all skills. So I think that's one of the huge issues in long-term relationship, why intimacy starts dying. There's just underneath the fact that we're not having relationships or sex, it's like we're not really that happy with each other. There's a lot of maybe fighting is going on, but maybe it's just like all of this resentment that's being built up. And, maybe we've had experiences where we tried to open up to our partner and be honest with them, and it got used against us and it got weaponized against us, or we got criticized, right? Criticism is something that really kills intimacy in a relationship. So I think that's one of the underlying pieces. And I think another underlying piece is for a lot of couples, they're just not having good sex. They're not. And again, these are skills that you learn, right? That you can learn, but nobody teaches us that. There's no sex 101 class.
Exactly. There's no class for it.
Right. So we don't have any knowledge, other than what we see on TV or we watch on porn, which generally speaking isn't realistic.
That's the classes people take.
It's the classes people take, right? And how's that working for people? Not so good. And so, when sex becomes routine and boring and not that pleasurable and you don't feel emotionally safe, so you can't really ask for what you want, or maybe you don't know what you want, right? And then it starts like, I think I'd rather just like do something other than having sex, right? Those moments get longer and longer. And the other thing that happens, and I see this a lot as well, is one partner, typically the male, typically, not always, is constantly getting rejected. They try to initiate with their partner, right?
Right.
And then they get rejected. Then they try to initiate again, and then they get rejected. And they're like, well, heck, I'm not going to do this again. This hurts.
Yeah.
I want to feel desired. I want to feel like my partner wants me. Why should I keep on putting myself out and get rejected? Right. Wow. And so I think that's another very common pattern that happens and starts to, slowly the intimacy starts to fade. It's really interesting, Rich. I just posted this on Facebook. I asked a question and I was curious I got a lot of responses, what people said. And I was like, I think the question was, you can have sex without love, but in a long-term relationship, can you have love without sex? And the responses were really fascinating, I have to say.
That's a good question.
It's a great question, right?
I would say yes.
Yeah. But it was really interesting, the answers that came in, right? And a lot of people were talking about, yes, I can love my partner and the sex has faded over time. And as a sex and intimacy coach, right, I'm like curious about that. Well, why has the sex faded over time?
Some people can't have sex.
Right. And that's an exception, right? Some people can't, right? They can't have intercourse, but that doesn't mean they can't have like other types of physical connections with their partners. So that's one piece of it. How do we define sex in this culture? Yeah. Right? It's a very, very narrow definition, which totally limits our ability to connect with the partner in different ways. But also what I heard was like, we just don't talk about it. There's not a lot of communication about it. And, I think that a lot of times what happens in a long-term relationship is like, one person wants more than the other, or we call it like there's a desire discrepancy. One partner wants more sex, the other wants less sex. and they end up having no sex or less sex, but the partner with higher desire, they may not be okay with that at the end of the day. And if they're not okay with it, they might do something outside of the relationship to have those needs met, right? This is why affairs happen as well. This is why people go outside of the relationship. This is why they hire, sex workers, right? This is all very, very, very real. I mean, I know a lot of sex workers, and they will say that the majority of their clients are typically often, these are female sex workers, men who are in sexless relationships.
Yeah. Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
All right. So if actually, I want to go back a minute. What are there any early signs that couples tend to miss?
Great. Well, I think one of the early signs that couples tend to miss is this rejection loop that's happening. Like the first time it happens, how you respond to your partner is one of the differences between it's going to be okay and it's not going to be okay. Right. So like, no, I'm just not into it tonight. That's a pretty hard ass no rejection. Right. As opposed to, wow, like, thanks for asking, but, I'm not really up to it tonight. Can we schedule something for later in the week? That's a different ask, right? So part of it is how you respond when there's a question for sex to be initiated. I think the second warning sign is like, and this varies from couple to couple, but like, if we're not having sex on a regular basis, are we touching? Are we cuddling together in bed? Like, am I feeling connected to my partner? That's the first question I'll ask a couple is like, how connected are you feeling to your partner right now?
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, do you feel like, oh my God, yeah, I'm super attracted to them, I really want to be with them? Or like, yeah, I'm okay, I can just hang out with my guys, my guy pals, or I can just hang out with my girlfriends. I kind of rather do that, right?
Right.
And I think that's like some of the early warning signs that I see when things might be able to start to go off the rail.
Wow. All right. So if someone's listening right now and they're thinking, wow, that actually sounds like us. What would you want them to know right now?
Well, I want them to know that it can be fixed, right? Like the earlier you identify a problem like this, the easier it is to repair it. The longer it goes on, the harder it becomes, right? It's like, if you haven't been to the gym for 3 years and all of a sudden you go to the gym for the first time in 3 years, like, it's hard. Your muscles do not feel comfortable. Right. Right. It's the same thing around intimacy. Even if you've been with your partner for 20 years, but you haven't had sex for 3 years, the first time you try it, it feels weird. Right.
Yeah.
So don't wait. Like if something feels off, try to have some sort of conversation with your partner where there's no blame and there's no shame. Like the word that I like to suggest partners use is curiosity, right? Like, I'm feeling like we haven't actually had any intimate time in quite a while. Like, do you feel that too? Like, do you know what's going on for you? Let me tell you what's going on for me, right? So you can start to have hopefully some sort of safe conversation around that. Another thing that they can do is, I like to have tools to give people. So I created this intimacy equation quiz that I can give out, which I'm giving out to anybody for free, right? But it's kind of like a personality quiz for your intimacy style. And taking this quiz, which you can find at howtoimprovemylovelife.com. So for all your listeners, how to improve mylovelife.com gives you some information about what your intimacy style is. Are you more touch oriented? Are you more words oriented? Is safety and trust really most important for you? Like loyalty more important for you? Is adventure and experimentation more important for you? And so my suggestion is like, take the little quiz. It's free. You'll get some information. You'll see how you interact with other people. And then go to your partner and say, hey, I took this like fun, you could call it a Facebook quiz, whatever. whatever. I took this fun little Facebook quiz about my intimacy style, and it turns out that, adventure and exploration is really important for me. I'm curious, do you want to take the quiz? Because I'd love to know what your style is, right? It's a low stakes way and kind of a fun way to start a conversation that for a lot of couples feel really, really fraught. It's like opening up Pandora's box. If our sex life has been challenging and one of us addresses it, sometimes it feels like you're opening up Pandora's box. And this is kind of a fun, safe way to start that conversation.
You think
and it's just some resources as well.
You think it's also a good idea even for people that aren't having problems to take it?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, right? It's great to know what your intimacy style is, how you interact with your partner, what their intimacy style is, what are the pros for that, what are the cons around that, so that you have some more awareness.
Make everything stronger.
Right, and why you might not respond to a particular approach, right? Or why your partner might not respond to a particular approach. It's kind of like you've heard of the 5 love languages before, right? So it's similar kind of thing, what's your intimacy style? What's your love language? Forgiving and receiving, right? And understanding that opens up a lot of communication.
And what's the website for that quiz again?
It is howtoimprovemylovelife.com.
All right. So those of you listening, when you go there and you take the quiz, feel free to contact me. If you have any questions, let me know the results. All right, wait a minute. Do they want to let me know the results? Anyways, if you have any questions, or if you want to get in contact with Xanet, I can hook you up. So, wait, I just said hook up. Never mind. No. See, this is, oh, wow. All right, so how do emotional intimacy and sexual intimacy actually feed each other?
Yes, that's such an important question. So they're very, very integrally related. Mm-hmm. And this is true for women and men. And I'm going to tell you the catch-22 that couples get into, right? This is very typically, and again, I'm using broad generalization here, guys and women, right? So if you don't fit into this category, it's totally fine. But broadly, if we look at the heterosexual normative population, what we find is that for women to actually be able to really open up sexually, they have to feel really emotionally safe because, having sex for women and for men, but particularly for women, is a very, very vulnerable place. I like to say, next to having a baby, it's the most vulnerable place that you can actually be, right?
Right.
But for a lot of men, they want emotional safety and need. We all need emotional safety as well. But for a lot of men, they find that emotional safety through sexuality, right? So when they have a sexual experience with their partner, then they feel like they can be open and intimate and feel more emotionally safe and vulnerable. And so it's kind of like a catch-22 is the chicken and the egg kind of problem, that we have. So I think there needs to be an understanding of the genders actually in many ways relate to this very differently. And I hate to say this, but I feel really confident saying this, that, the women hold the key to the kingdom here. They just do.
Yeah.
You can't have sex without them. And so you have to abide by that kind of rule, which is she's got to feel emotionally connected and emotionally safe in order for her to open up, for us to have a sexual activity, then I can feel emotionally connected and safe. And so creating that emotional safety in the relationship for both partners, but especially for women, I think is really critical in order to be able to not get into this, sexless relationship problem that so many couples end up in.
Right.
A lot.
So does the body actually respond when emotional safety is gone?
It does.
It does.
So especially if you've experienced, any type of trauma, not just sexual abuse, but emotional trauma, physical trauma, right? Shame trauma, there's lots of different traumas. We always think about it just as sexual trauma, but no, any of these traumas impact the body and create a feeling of not being safe in your body. And not being safe in your body means that you're disconnected from your body. Sometimes you're dissociated from your body, meaning that you're really outside of your body looking in, if you will, at some level. And we know what it feels like to be emotionally safe. Like we understand what that feels like in our body when we feel that, right? It's like, oh, I can relax, I can breathe, I can be grounded. I can hold this person. I mean, that's how I feel with my partner, right? I can put my arms around my partner and hold him, and my whole nervous system. This is a nervous system issue.
Yeah.
Being emotionally safe. So I'm a trauma practitioner as well as a sex and intimacy educator and coach, right? So this is really about two nervous systems, really attuning to each other, and everybody taking a breath and calming down and feeling like this is a good place to be in my body. And when we're not emotionally safe, then we're feeling constricted, contracted, anxious, right? Lots of physical experiences in people's bodies, which they may not be aware of because they're not as connected to their body sensations, but that's actually what's going on.
All right. So a few things I want to talk, because I want to hit on this, because there's a few things you have that can help people out. You're listening to Conversations with Rich Bennett. We'll be right back. If you're looking for a way to unwind and relax after a long day, go to the place that I go to. Look no further than Serenity Salt Spa. Their state-of-the-art facility offers a variety of services to help you de-stress and rejuvenate. You can step into their salt room and let the healing properties of salt therapy work their magic on your mind and body, or try one of their massages to ease tension and promote deep relaxation. At Serenity Salt Spa, they believe that self-care is essential for a happy and healthy life. Book your appointment today and experience the ultimate in relaxation. You know they're good. The reviews say it all. Otherwise, they would not have earned the Harford County Living stamp of approval. Go to serenitysaltspa.net. Again, that's serenitysaltspa.net. Or give them a call at 443-640-6020. Again, that's 443-640-6020. First of all, tell us about the two books you have.
Okay. So I have written two books. I'm the best-selling author of Living an Orgasmic Life, Heal Yourself and Awaken Your Pleasure. And that book came out in 2018.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while.
But it's still relevant.
It's still very, very relevant.
Yeah.
That book contains my own personal healing journey, my sexual awakening and healing journey, as well as a lot of case studies from my clients. So it was geared primarily towards women's sexual awakening, but a lot of men have read that book and have gotten a lot out of it. There's also case studies about male clients because at the time I was seeing both female and male clients individually in my coaching practice. Mm-hmm. And the first half of the book is about all of the things that block us from connecting with our sexuality. Shame, trauma, abuse, dissociation, all sorts of things. And then the second part of the book are ways in which you can actually experience more pleasure in your body, and talks about tantra and sacred sexuality. And there's a lot of somatic body-based experiences and practices that I offer in the second half of the book. And that book has been super powerful. I've had hundreds.
It's almost like a guidebook.
Kind of. I've had hundreds of women and some men email and say how reading that book changed their life. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's awesome.
Wow.
I did not. And how relatable it was, right? Of how many people have had the same experience I have had. And then the second book is called The Sex and Intimacy Repair Kit, How to Enhance Communication and Create a Lifetime of Passionate Intimacy. And that book, I don't know when this is being out, but that book is being released March 4th, so it may already be out. And that book is 100% based for couples. So really learning, like what I said, the tools for intimacy. What does that actually mean? Very specific tools and practices to create emotional safety, to be able to have hard conversations, to learn how to repair conflict when it happens in a way that actually creates more connection and more intimacy rather than, more disconnection. And then some very specific tools around really how to enhance your sex life, because, I could write 4 more books on that, right?
Right.
But I wanted to be really specific about, these are three areas that I think if you actually access and start changing will have a huge impact on on how your sex life is. And that's what that book is about as well. And that's based on all of the work that I've done with couples over the past 7 years. And I've been coaching for 15 years. But in the past 7 years, I've been focusing primarily on couples doing intensive 4-day retreats in Asheville, North Carolina, where we really work on one-on-one. We work specifically on the challenges that they're having.
I was going to ask you about the retreats.
Yeah.
Because you have, all right, well, we're recording this January 21st, so this may not be out in time by Valentine's Day, but you do one. It was in
but
Costa
there'll be
Rica.
one next year.
Oh,
yes,
that's what I was going to ask you.
Yes. So every February, I do an international, typically in Costa Rica, sometimes in Mexico. Last year in Dominica, which was awesome. Valentine's Day week-long or 5 or 6 day retreat for couples, a group retreat for couples. This one is February 9th through the 15th. And we do have one spot left. So if this is out, early. But I also am offering the same one next year. It's the end of February. It's like February 25th to March 1st, I believe, are the dates. Also in Costa Rica. This one is going to be in the middle of the jungle in Dominical. It's an absolutely amazing, gorgeous center overlooking the ocean and in the mountains. It's in the jungle. It's really incredible. And that's just, and those Rose retreats are for couples who are not really, really struggling because, they need to be like in a pretty good place. And I screen everybody, make sure it's, everybody's in a good place. Sometimes I'll have a couple come and work with me here in Asheville privately because they are having challenges and then things get better and then they come on the group retreat. That happens pretty frequently, I would say, as well. But yeah, it's an amazing experience. It's super fun. You get to do really juicy activities with your partner,
right?
in a group setting. With your partner, but we're in a group setting, right? We're in a group classroom where they're doing touch exercises and other types of, practices.
Right.
We explore light kink and a little bit of BDSM, and we work a lot on communication and emotional safety and different types of touch and sensuality, and there's education, and it's just a really great experience.
So all the coaching you do is only in person, not virtually?
Mostly. So I mostly just do my retreats, which are intensives. They're over a 4-day period of time from Friday to Monday. They spend 13 hours with me. They stay in, we have this very, very sexy Airbnb, where they stay, and then we work up in my office. And, I have found, I've done a lot of virtual coaching. I certainly did a lot during the pandemic and even when I was living in California. But I have found that in my own personal experience of like doing week-long deep dives really are much more transformational in your body and in your experience. And so what I found was like when I work with couples over a 4-day period of time, like we go really, really deep and I'm able to like immediately see what's going on and immediately work with them. And also give them lots of experiences here where I can coach them like, no, don't touch her that way, touch her this way. Let me show you this type of touch, right? All within like, boundaries that everybody feels comfortable with. Like people don't take their clothes off. Well, the women take their shirts off, but they usually have like a sports bra on underneath or something. And I have, and a lot of the couples I see, not all, but a lot of the couples I see really are on the verge of separation, right? I might be the last person, like they've seen a therapist, they've even seen a sex therapist, but things have not really improved. And then they come and see me. And I do have like a 90% success rate of, couples not only changing, but that change sticking through. And sometimes I do coach them. I would say about 50% of my couples, I'll continue coaching after they leave for maybe 6 sessions, couple of months, just to make sure that things are on track or if they need additional support. But yeah, so I have found that to be a lot more effective. And that's just me. There's a lot of people that do virtual coaching with couples that, do really well with it. I guess I'm just a hands-on,
it makes
in-person
sense.
person. Yeah.
To me, I mean, I know, with COVID, a lot of people went to virtual for everything. I mean, hell, we're doing it now.
Right, exactly.
But I think when it comes to almost any type of therapy, I know sometimes, like mental health therapy, sometimes virtual works. But with what you're talking about, because the touch and everything in person just, I think, would make it so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you need to show people things like, I have this whole basket of, you might see some toys up there, right? But like, I have a whole basket of sensual tools of like, let's try this, let's try a feather, let's try a scarf, let's try some metal, right? Like that's a very sensate oriented, experiential. And my work, and the reason this is so important is all of my work is very experiential and interactive because, sex happens in your body. Yes, your brain is the biggest organ when it comes to sex. Not saying that's not important, but talking about it doesn't do anything. It doesn't change the dynamic.
Right.
The only thing that changes the dynamic is having a different experience in your body of like, oh, that's what emotional safety feels like. Oh, that's what it feels like when I'm turned on. Oh, that's the kind of touch that makes my skin crawl. Then you begin to understand what you actually want that you're not getting, right?
Yeah, because people could experience something that they never tried before.
Right.
And you're like, just a simple touch, just the way you touch somebody, where you touch somebody. You can touch somebody in the same place 2 different ways, and it will make a big difference.
Huge difference.
And a lot of people don't realize that, I think.
Right, exactly. Again, all skills that can be learned, right?
Right.
All skills that can be learned.
Exactly. You mentioned success. And one of the things I love to hear is the feel-good stories. So can you share either 1 or 2 stories about people, couples that you have helped, and you don't need to use their names.
Yeah. Well, sure. So there's so many of them. Let me pick one.
Well, you said 90%?
I do, but a couple that recently came to see me, and they are a couple that work in the same business. Now that creates a lot of its own issues, right? And sometimes, and this is particularly true for this couple, they're already having a lot of sex. Sometimes they are, but the communication and other aspects of the relationship are really struggling. And that was going on in this particular situation, right? Where, he was feeling like totally overwhelmed with feeling, and again, this is like, I can't ask for any help. I'm an independent guy. This is my macho thing. I'm going to run this business. I'm going to do all of these things. I'm working 12 hours a day. And missing his partner, but not able to express it. And she's like sitting at home doing a little bit of work, or she's in the business a little bit, right? But she's like getting bored, twiddling her thumbs kind of thing. She gave up her other job. She's feeling like, I'm worthless, like I'm not doing anything, because for this particular person, feeling like she's being recognized, that she's doing work was very important for her to feel good about herself, because she had this very, very deep self-worth wound. Yeah. Right. And, this seems like, and also she had a ton of management experience. She was managing multi-million-dollar companies, right? And this is like a relatively small, business. And, by the end of the retreat, and, I think this was just part of me helping them see like what they were each missing, right? They came to a decision that she was going to start like basically becoming the CFO of the company, right? Like doing the accounting, doing more management so that they felt like they were actually more partners, because to her, it did not feel like a partnership, right? And to him, he felt like he was doing all the work and not getting any appreciation or recognition. And all she was, doing was like making him upset that she didn't want to spend time with him, right? And again, this was not like, and yes, did we work on their sex life? We did, definitely. But they were already having, this is a little bit unusual, but they were already having pretty good and pretty often sex.
Right.
And we're open to exploring new things. But really for them, this was about like, how do we live together? How do we live and work together? How do we feel like we can actually communicate some of our feelings? These were hard things to say. It was hard for him to be able to say like, wow, I really miss you. Right? When I'm downstairs and I come home and dinner's on the stovetop and you're already in bed at 9:30 or 10 o'clock. Right? That was really hard for him to say. And it was hard for her to say, like, I'm really feeling pretty worthless right now. And that's affecting my depression and my anxiety, right? A lot of couples have all anxiety and depression, everybody. And that's having a huge impact on me and going into, these depressive episodes and whatnot, right? And so like creating like the container, the safety where they could actually start having that conversation completely shifted things for them, by the end of the retreat. So that's one example for a couple that's already having sex. And then I can talk about several other couples where they came to me, one in particular where they were having no sex. They hadn't had sex in a couple of years, I think, at that time. And again, underlying that we're not having sex was like, there's a lot of repairs. There's a lot of conflict that we had, that we've never really talked about before, and really spent some time with them talking about and working through some of those conflicts. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what it was about. But I think it was something about a child who was living, second marriage, a kid living in the house. Causing issues or maybe having addiction issues. And again, there just wasn't safety for them to have that conversation about how is this impacting our marriage and what are we going to do about it? And because it was only one person's child, how blame is being shifted on all of those confusing issues. Yep. And once some of that conversation happened, then we were able to talk about, okay, let's really talk about like the different types of touches. That's another thing that's another way in which I think, another example of couples is like a lot of times they touch the same way, right? But having the experience of like, there is, I use the 4 elements of the earth. There's earth touch, which is really grounding and creates emotional safety. And there's water touch, which is really lovely and flowing and an all body experience. And there's air touch, which is kind of light and very tickly, right? And then there's fire touch, which is intense and passionate. And giving them the experience of like having a language of like, oh, there's 4 different types of ways in which we can touch. And I'm going to have an experience of understanding like what turns me on. Right. And being able to ask for something specific, as opposed to like, that just doesn't feel very good, but I don't know what I want. Now it's like, oh, now I understand. Like, I like to start with, like earth touch. I like to feel grounded. I like to feel that our nervous systems are connected. And then, I really like very, very light touch because that turns me on really quickly. Right. And so again, that's another experience. Yeah, it could be. Creates that chill bumps, right? Yeah. So creating, giving them a language that they could actually share, that they could share with each other, right? Super powerful for them, that allowed her to be able to understand what her arousal pattern was and him to understand what her arousal pattern was, and what they both actually wanted and needed to actually start to create a sex life that they wanted to have. So that's another example of like, again, almost always we're dealing with the emotional stuff first. And then once there's more emotional safety in the room, we can easily move into the physical parts of intimacy.
Okay, so when it comes to the touching, and I mean, I love to massage. I just me. It's like, you know, my wife gets home, hard day at work. I have no problems massaging her back, shoulders, or whatever.
Yeah.
But and I'm thinking of with the massage and with the intimacy and the touching, do you focus on like little pressure points as well?
No.
So okay.
I think that's one of the areas. So I always ask a couple before we start, like, show me how you touch your partner.
Right.
If you think you might want to turn her on. And a lot of times what I see are massage touch, right? Because that's something we know. We've had the experience of it ourselves. We've experienced massages. We know that feels good in our body, right? But there's a distinction between a therapeutic touch, which is massage, and a relaxing touch, and a sensual touch. And they're different. Not to say they can't be combined, right? So like, you know, sometimes when I'm teaching sensual massage, I start off with like teaching some massage touch, right? Because it relaxes the body and you want to do that. But then if it's a sensual massage, you want to quickly transition into more sensual touch. So that's the thing, right? When somebody starts massaging your shoulders, like, I mean, Darren does that to me. It's like, oh man, that's amazing. But if he doesn't put his hand someplace else, I'm thinking we're just getting a massage as opposed to something else might want to happen here.
Right.
And so I think that I see that a lot. Like, you know, yeah, massage is great. It's awesome. It relaxes the body. But for most people, it does not turn them on. It's not sensual. It's therapeutic.
Okay. That's, I was
Does that make
wondering.
sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Because I know with massage, when you're doing massage, you're focusing on the different pressure points, which helps with the brain and everything, almost like tapping. But at the same time, I like you don't want that full massage. Sometimes you just want to. I like to, as my wife says, just draw on the back.
Yeah,
you know, very lightly. It's like, okay. Meanwhile, my finger stiffens up, but you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's more of a sensual, you know, a sensual touch, and using like maybe your whole hand, because using your whole hand feels more grounded. It feels more connected, right? And then going into kind of lighter touch as well. I'm not at all saying not to do a massage. Massages are great and they can transition into a sensual experience. But don't expect that if you massage your partner's shoulders that she's going to think that you want to have sex with her.
Oh, absolutely not.
Right?
No.
Or even start to feel aroused.
Right.
Because that's not what that's about.
No.
It's about releasing tension and stress. And
exactly.
trigger points and things like that.
Exactly. And it's the thing is, especially so when your partner comes home from work, a lot of times they are stressed out.
Yeah.
And I think if you do that massage first and then have dinner or whatever, if at least there's something else later, then so be it. You know, but I just find that, and I guess this is the difference between the love and the sex part. You care enough for your partner to where you're going to release that stress by giving them massage. Or another thing is just either talking to them, or let me rephrase that, talking with them, or better yet, just listening. If they want to come home and vent, listen.
Yes.
You don't have to even respond. Just listen.
Totally. And I think that's such an important point, Rich, because I think this is where a lot of couples get into conflict. I come home and I've had like a really long day and I tell you about all these problems I had at work, and then your partner starts to try to fix it. Right. And that's so frustrating. It's like, you can't fix it. All you can do, and I tell people this all the time. You're fixing it by just being a good listener, because that's all they need is to vent and feel this is emotionally safe. I feel heard. I feel understood. I feel believed. Right? When you try to fix it or fix me, you're invalidating me. And invalidation is what creates the most conflict in relationship. Constantly.
So when couples come to you feeling like roommates, what do you usually help them see first?
Well, again, first I help them see what's holding us back. You know, what's holding us back from feeling like we can talk about what's going on, what's holding us back from really feeling that there's enough emotional safety and creating that container in the relationship, right? That's number one. Are there underlying conflicts? Do we know how to resolve conflicts? Like, the emotional piece is the foundation for a good relationship. I say in my new book that, the key, and this is absolutely true, the key to a long-term successful relationship is learning how to repair, period. If you can learn how to repair conflict, you'll have a good long-term relationship, right? And then it's like understanding what's actually happening in their sex life, that there's no charge there. Is it that they need some education? Yes, a lot of times, right? Is it that they don't know what they want? Is it that they know what they want, but they're afraid to ask for it, and they know what they want, but they're not getting it? Is it that their partner doesn't know how to give that to them, to like hold that type of energy, right? So, and I know a fair amount of your audience are men, right? True?
Actually split.
Split. Okay, great. Yeah. Awesome. So I love to talk to the men here. Let me talk, guys, I'm talking to you right now. Okay. So what I've seen, in society is that a lot of men through, everything, the Me Too movement, you name it, right, have really been emasculated around being able to fully be in their sexual power. Not everyone, but a lot of men feel that way. And they're afraid to bring that passion in. They're afraid to bring that desire in, right? Because they've been taught in the workplace and other places, it's not okay to show that part of yourself. It's not safe, even in a long-term relationship. And they want to be good guys, right? People who are listening to a podcast, they want to be good guys. They're good guys. They want to show up for their partners. They want to be respectful, right? And so they shut that part of themselves down. Not to say they don't have sex, they do, but they shut that like, I want you, I want to rip your clothes off, right? And a lot of women, not all women, but a lot of women, I used to do these workshops with women and men in one circle, women in one circle, men in the other circle. And I would ask the women with the men on the outside circle with their faces facing out so they don't know who was speaking, basically saying like, how many of you raise your hand if it would be a total turn on for you if a partner who you felt very safe with like came in, threw you against the wall and started like, basically just ravishing you.
Right.
And every single hand in the room went up. Every single time.
Wow.
Right? So a lot of women want that. They want to be taken. They want to be ravished. They want to be desired. They want their clothes torn off. Not all the time. Right. And there has to be some conversation about it. And what they end up getting is these nice men who are making love to them when they actually want more intensive, I'm not going to use the word, but more aggressive sex. Yeah. Right. And that's a huge disconnect. And if you're not like getting that emotional need met, then sex becomes maybe okay, but not great. And so when I see that dynamic, which I see a lot, show up, there's an opportunity to like completely shift all of that, right? To like, for the women to say to the guy, to her husband or partner, like, I give you full permission to be your ravenous, animalistic self. That's good, right? If I don't want it in that particular time, I will tell you, trust me, I will say, I really want to be more gentle tonight. Right. But I give you permission when that feels right for you to do that, right? And for the men to actually hear that they have been given permission to actually bring their full sexuality into the room. Oh, wow. And then sometimes with the men, I've got to give them permission, and then I've got to teach them, like, it's okay. Like, you can do this. Like, we play the animal game where they get on hands and knees, and they're animals, and they try to tear at each other and with their eyes closed and whatnot, right? So that I love that. Yeah, so that animal instinct, which we all have, is allowed to come out in a place that feels safe and shame-free and guilt-free. So guys, just hear that. Just have that conversation with your partner. Don't just do it, but have that conversation with your partner, because I think that's one of the things a lot of women are really desiring in their relationship and not getting.
Something very important. Tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
So the best way to get in touch with me is go to my website, which is Passionate Intimacy Retreats with an S.com. Passionate Intimacy Retreats with an S.com. bestselling.com. And Rich will have all that information in the show notes as well. Yeah.
So before I get to my last question, is there anything you would like to add?
So I think the thing I always like to leave people with is this understanding is that, pleasure is your birthright. You were put on this earth to experience pleasure. And if that's not a part of your life, and there's lots of different ways to experience pleasure, right? Yeah. But if that's not a part of your life, particularly around your sexuality, then you owe it to yourself to at least question that, to look into it, to examine it, to seek support. Because it's out there.
I love that. All right. So pick a question. Yeah, right. Well, you're going to be picking a question. You just don't know which question it is yet.
Oh, God. Okay.
Pick a number between 1 and 100.
Really? Okay. 69.
I don't even need to ask why that number, but I can guarantee you just made my brother roll over in his grave because he picked that number for everything. Okay. How can this not align with what we're talking about? Well, no, actually, it could.
Of course it does.
Yeah. If you could spend a year living in a completely different culture, where would you go and what would you hope to learn?
Oh, my God. That's a great question. I think of so many different things. I
know.
Yeah, that's a hard one. If I could spend a year living in a different culture, I've been intrigued with the French culture because my name is from my husband's family was from France, came over from France, and I've always felt like I had past lives in France as well. Very interesting past lives in France. But I've never been there. I've been to other European countries, but I've never been to France yet. And I would really like to spend a year living there and really understanding their culture from the gastronomic, like the food perspective of it, to, how they feel, the French are, the libertines, right? The French were very sexually open at times, right? And so it's a culture that I'm super interested in. And that's probably where I would spend a year in France, just exploring all parts of it.
I was going to say, weren't they lovers, not fighters?
They were, right?
Yeah.
The libertines were, and that it was a very sexually open, culture before that got put down. But yeah.
Wow, so that was a first. That was the first time that question's been asked. I like and see that it worked with what we've been talking about.
Perfect, it did.
Xanet, I want to thank you so much. Those of you listening, you know where to go. Also, when you purchase her books, after you read them, make sure you leave a full review and purchase copies for friends of yours.
Totally.
There's couples that and those of you that have kids, I think this would make a perfect wedding present for new couples.
It would. A whole new market. I have to think about that.
There you go. Their honeymoon's going to be the retreat.
Oh, yes. That would be awesome. That's the best thing, right? Get couples in the beginning when there aren't problems so they can learn everything. Man,
exactly. Exactly. Xanet, thank you so much.
Thanks, Rich. What a delightful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Conversations with Rich Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something from it as I did. If you'd like to hear more conversations like this, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you have a moment, I'd love it if you could leave a review. It helps us reach more listeners and share more incredible stories. Don't forget to connect with us on social media or visit our website at conversationswithrichbennett.com for updates, giveaways, and more. Until next time, take care, be kind, and keep the conversations going. It takes a lot to put a podcast together, and my sponsors help out a lot, but I also have some supporters that actually help me when it comes to the editing software, the hosting, and so forth. There's a lot that goes into putting this together. So I want to thank them. And if you can, please visit their websites, visit their businesses, support them however you can. So please visit the following. Full Circle Boards. Nobody does charcuterie like Full Circle Boards. Visit them at fullcircleboards.com. Sincerely Sawyer Photography. Live in the moment. They'll capture it. Visit them at sincerelysawyer.com. The Joppatown Lions Club, serving the community since 1965. Visit them at joppatownlionsclub.org. And don't forget the E at the end of Joppatown, because they're extraordinary. From now until February 28th, 2026, if you use coupon code CRB Podcast, again, that's CRB Podcast, you'll get 10% off all memberships from Port Discovery Children's Museum in Baltimore City. Again, that code is C as in Charlie, R as in Rich, B as in Bennett, Podcast. This discount is valid only for memberships purchased between February 10th of 2026 until February 28th of 2026. It cannot be applied retroactively to previous purchases. It may not be combined with any other discount or promotion. All memberships purchased are non-refundable.